All right, so today we are getting into looking at word problems. So we've been dealing with a constant rate of change with linear functions. So that means we've had our graphs and we've had a straight line going through. So that means that our slope or rate of change is the same at any point on this line. Okay, so that means we had a constant rate of change. And now we're going to be looking at word problems and writing this y equals rule. So something like y equals mx plus b, but for a word problem, so a real life situation. So as we go, you might see your name pop up because I like to use my students' names in word problems. All right, so keep that in mind. Might be something fun to look for. So again, we've been dealing with a constant rate of change. So for example, when we had a XY table and we added 2 each time, every time we added 2, which means it's constant. All right, so let's look at our first word problem. So it says Sydney gets an allowance of $10 a week and then an extra $3 per chore. Write the y equal rule. So let's take a look. Sydney gets an allowance of $10 a week. So that means no matter what, Sydney gets $10 a week. I don't know if you guys know what an allowance is, but that means every week you get money from your parents or guardians just for being alive, basically. Just some extra money for who knows what. So every week, Sydney gets $10 flat, okay? Then, if Sydney does chores, she gets an extra $3 per chore, okay? So, let's start with this $10. So, we know, when we write this y equal rule, she's always going to get $10. So, that's our starting point. That's the lowest amount of money that she will get that week is $10. So if she does no chores, she still gets $10. Then she gets an extra $3 per chore. So that means every time she does a chore, she gets $3. So that right here is our rate of change. Okay? And up here, we have our starting point. So, $3 per chore, and then we can write that as 3x. And you can think of when you see that word per, you can put the x right there. So per is how you know maybe there's an x, because every time something happens, you're getting a certain amount of money. So we always need to make sure we define our variables. So that's really important. So the y variable is your total amount of money each week. In this situation. It's not always going to be the same situation, right? But this is showing our $3 per chore plus our $10 is going to give me the total amount of money every week. Okay? Now, if we think about it, it's $3 per chore. So what would the X be? What would the X stand for? So X is the amount of chores you do. All right, let's take a look at the next problem. So, Selena borrows $9 from her parents and decides to pay them back $2 per week. Write the y equal rule. So I want you to take a second and think about what is the starting point here. So what you should have come to the conclusion of is that Selena initially is borrowing $9 from her parents. So that's our starting point. Okay, so no matter what, Selena borrowed $9 from her parents. We know that as a fact. Okay? No matter how much she pays them back or whatever, she started by borrowing $9 from them. Now take a second and think about, what is this slope here? What's the rate of change? So the rate of change is that she decides to pay them back $2 per week. Okay? Now, we know that per week means we're going to put the X in there. But think about for a second. In this situation, she was getting paid $3 per chore. If you pay someone back, are you gaining money or are you losing money? You should have came to the conclusion that you're going to be losing money. So here we were gaining money, so we had a positive 3x. When we're losing money, will it be a positive or a negative? It's going to be a negative because we're paying them back. All right? Now, what we want to make sure we always do, as I said before, is we want to make sure, and this purple is our rate of change. Make sure we label that. We want to make sure that we're always defining our variables, so that we know what is happening here, and that way I know what's happening on a quiz or a test or something. So, take a second, see if you can think about defining these variables. So what do you think the y would be? So the y is the total amount of money that Selena has. Because you start with 9 and you're subtracting 2 every week, so therefore the y is going to be how much you have at that point, right? Okay. So then what would the x be? The x would be the number of weeks that go by. Because every time a week goes by, this x will change to a different number. Okay? All right. So today, you're going to have a Desmos activity to complete. So that is your job for today. Okay? All right. Have a good one, guys.